Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and to celebrate the beginning of October or Spooktober or whatever you want to call it, I'm counting down my top 10 favorite jump scares of all time. Last year I put out a video about how to correctly make a jump scare, the do's and the don'ts. This year I just want to talk about my favorite ones. They don't have to be in a horror movie, they don't have to be the traditional kind of jump scare that we all think of, they just have to be really, really good. Before I get started, I want to point out that horror and all things scary for that matter are subjective, so just because I really like it doesn't mean that you guys will. So that's why this list is just my top 10. If yours doesn't make the list, make sure to leave it in the comments below. Oh, and spoiler warning, and this should go without saying, but jump scare warning. But that's enough for me. Let's get to this list. Now, why this particular jump scare works so well for me is that it diverts your expectations. That's the number one goal of all jump scares, and that's why most of them these days don't work. They're too predictable, so they don't end up scaring you. Now, in this case, it is somewhat predictable because you know there's about to be something scary. It doesn't hide that from you. But the thing that makes it work is that you're expecting it to be outside the blanket fort as it's pulling it apart, but then suddenly it's inside with him. It didn't come in, it's just already in there.
Gonna play it again? Like it. Hey, maybe I could get a copy, and you could autograph it to a far out fan. What's in here?
Record vault.
Oh, where you keep the golden oldies and maybe the new music.
I really like this jump scare because there's already a villain on screen. You're actively being creeped out and scared by this villain, so you're not thinking that there's going to be anything else to jump out at you. Now, you were probably expecting it somewhat because this is a video about jump scares, but if you were just watching a horror movie where there is the villain on screen, you're not expecting anything else to happen, you're just worried about him. So this is actually a really good trick. Even though it's not a great movie, it is a great trick within the bad movie.
Here's a pretty thing. Mithril. As light as a feather, and as hard as dragon scales. Let me see you put it on. Come on. Oh. My old ring. Oh, I should very much like to hold it again one last time.
This one made me crap my pants as a kid. This comes out of nowhere and it's so unexpected, and that's why it's so good. I know, it's not a horror movie, and it's not particularly a scary movie either. It's a fantasy movie for adults and kids. It's for the whole family. And you're lulled into this sense of security because you're in Rivendell, which is completely safe. And you're with Bilbo, the safest of all characters. He would never do anything to you. And then all of a sudden, he's creepy. It's not overly clever or anything like that, but it's unexpected because it's where you least expect it. And I know, he's just standing there and then he screams at you, but that's what makes it so unexpected, is it's a character that you're extremely comfortable with just being face to face with until all of a sudden their face gets a little creepy.
Relay my transmission to the onboard computer and have it rebroadcast as emergency PA. Dr. May...
Open the inner hatch. I repeat, do not open the inner hatch. I repeat, do not
Brand?
open...
I don't know what he said to you, but I am taking command of the Endurance. And then we can talk about completing the mission.
Dr. Mann, listen to me.
This is not about my life or Cooper's life. This is about all mankind. There is a moment
It loses some points on the scary scale because there's no gory visuals or demonic creatures or anything like that. But this has to be one of the least expected jump scares I've ever witnessed. I was not expecting it, I was not prepared for it, and I about jumped 10 feet out of my seat. Once again, it is extremely unexpected because it's happening in the middle of a conversation where you'd least expect this to happen. Not that you trust this character in this movie, you're aware that he's a bad guy, but you've got the bad guy on screen in a situation that you're not expecting anything to happen. He's actively getting away and subsequently killing the good guys, when suddenly, no, he's not anymore.
What? She isn't gone.
Now this one might not make as much sense if you haven't seen the movie because it's about the context of this movie. This character shouldn't be making noises anymore. This character that she's hearing is known for making these noises and isn't there. She's not able to make these noises anymore. And we've been conditioned to be scared of this noise because this noise means something bad. And all of a sudden we hear this noise even though nothing should be happening bad. But because of the car being there and because of this character being there, it all means something a lot deeper.
Why don't you listen?
I don't know.
Because I'm telling you.
I'm
trying to tell you.
I don't need to hear your excuses.
I'm not making
your
excuses.
bullshit.
The scene works great because it's in a supposed lull moment in the movie. The scene doesn't feel like your typical jump scare setup because it feels genuine. It doesn't feel like filler. It doesn't feel like something just happening, waiting for something else to happen. This feels like actual plot. It is actual plot. Things are actually happening, and then the jump scare happens in the middle. And that's a big deal because most of the time we can tell a jump scare is about to happen because filler is happening. Unimportant stuff is happening, and then bam, something happens. Duh.
Sit down. The public likes you. That's the only reason that this might fly. But that means it's on you. They're all gonna come after you now. And not just the mob. Politicians, journalists, cops. Anyone whose wallet's about to get lighter. Are you up to it? You better be. Because they get anything on you. And those criminals are back on the streets, followed swiftly by you and me.
Once again, this happens in the least expected time. This scene made me jump probably 10 rows back. I've never felt more tense during a non-horror film than I did watching The Dark Knight. And that's because even though it is a superhero movie, it gets dangerously close to a thriller at the same time. And most of those points have to do with the Joker being the Joker. And that's why this scene works so well, is because we're having a boring conversation between a couple of boring characters. It's just a very typical Nolan scene where we've got Nolan exposition being spewed out between two different characters. It's just boring, right? Wrong. And that's why the scene works so well. It's not the most graphic content in the world, I get it. It is a little bit graphic, but what really does it is a contrast between what we're expecting to happen and what actually does. Now, this jump scare works for a completely different reason than the past few. As we're getting back into the horror genre, we're expecting horrifying things to happen, we're expecting terrible things to happen in this scene. What makes this scene so good is that it's still not something that you're expecting, even though you're in a situation where you're expecting something bad to happen. You see this character with the lawnmower and you see the family over there, you're not expecting them to suddenly come together like they do. It is a horrible visual, but what makes it even better is that it's done 90% in your own mind, because it doesn't doesn't actually show the gore. It doesn't actually show that. It shows something about to happen and somebody else's reaction to it. And what is in our head will always be worse than what's on screen, because our minds are way better at coming up with horrifying and terrible imagery than any CGI or practical effects ever could be. Sometimes our brains do need a little help being nudged in the right direction, like being shown something about to happen, but our brains can take it from there, and man, this scene hits hard.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
The more your expectations are subverted, the better the jump scare usually is. And this one is especially creative. You're obviously expecting the jump scare to be coming from down the basement because that's where she's looking, that's where the creepy voice is coming from, and you know what? Basements are just creepy, okay? But no, it comes from behind her. And instead of just having a creepy violin sound effect or something like that, you incorporate real life sound effects. You've got the clapping sound effect, and that works so well because it's loud and it's shocking, but it doesn't feel like a trope. You not only feel like the character's in danger, you feel like you're being attacked too, because it's loud and it's shocking, but not in a typical movie way. So this particular jump scare hits every jump scare cliche to a T. It hits every bullet point. It's as cliche as it can be, but it's done so well that we don't mind the cliche. So that's why it's number 2 on my list, because it is extremely cliche, but it takes a cliche, flips it on its head, and makes it extremely scary again, like it's the first time that you've ever seen it.
I went into Dalton's room. There was something in there with him. It was standing there in the corner. I asked it, "Who are you?" And it said it was a visitor. I said, "What do you want?" It said Dalton. I can still hear that voice.
Is it over? God, I hate watching this. I hate watching this. I can't wait to edit this video, man. God. This works on so many levels because I hate the visuals. I just hate how creepy he looks. But also, it is one of the best subversions of expectations possible, because she's telling a creepy story. So you think that there's going to be a creepy thing that happens in the story, because she's telling a creepy story. So you think that the jump scare is going to be in that creepy story, but no, it's not. And not only is it not there, it's behind him instead. And it's not a big popping out jump scare, it's just there, and he's there. And what makes it worse is that he's unaware that it's happening. It's happening to him, but it's happening at the audience, and so we feel like we're being attacked, but we're also worried about him being attacked, and then we're worried about maybe there's something behind us too. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And that's why it is the best jump scare of all time. At least that's what I think. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.